Hey guys, in today's video, we'll be going over 11 facts about LiAngelo Ball that you'll definitely be able to impress your friends with. Make sure you stick around until the end of the video to find out where LiAngelo currently stands with the NBA and see how far he's gotten in his quest to make the league. We're starting off with number 11. LiAngelo Ball was not a very sought-after recruit during his high school days. As a matter of fact, 247sports.com ranked him as a 3-star recruit and held him outside of their top 200 prospects in the class. And just to make things even worse for him, he was ranked as the 50th best shooting guard. I may not be an NBA scout, or any scout for that matter, but the fact that he was ranked that low is a little odd. Also, ESPN does grade on all prospects out of 100 points. This includes everything about them as a basketball player and is a great evaluation before they head into college or the NBA. ESPN gave LiAngelo a 79 in that grade, which isn't the best, but still did make him look a lot better than the mediocre reviews he was previously receiving. Although it didn't stop him from committing to the UCLA Bruins while he was still just a sophomore at high school. Now, he didn't end up spending as much time with his new school as was expected that opening year, acting as a reserve. He did play at times throughout their next season, but ended up leaving the school for a reason that we'll get to later, so be sure to stick around for that. Next up, at number 10, basketball isn't his only talent. While everybody knows LiAngelo Ball simply because of his basketball family, you might not know that he used to be talented in a different sport before choosing to pursue basketball full-time. When he was in high school, Ball played both basketball and football at the same time. He even used to be in a flag football league against his brothers when he was younger. Basketball remains his true passion, but if you ever have an opportunity, try and check out some of his football highlights from when he was younger. Maybe he could have been seen in a whole new light if he'd gone that route instead. Moving on now to number 9, LiAngelo Ball is one of the rawest NBA prospects you'll ever see. In fairness though, Ball hasn't really gotten any actual coaching and yet is good enough to make it onto an NBA team. When he first graduated from high school, many recognized him as a potential all-star talent due to his flashes of greatness on the court. Most of that was due to the championship runs he and his brothers were making over at Chino Hills Academy. LiAngelo also dropped a career-high 72 points over Rancho Christian School during his senior season, which really showcased his scoring potential, especially from behind the arc because he sank 13 three-pointers. The school also went 27-0 one year when all 3 brothers were currently enrolled. This just goes to show how talented the Ball family is and how athleticism is definitely in their genes. The fact that he was playing football, too, made him look better as an overall athlete in the mind of scouts everywhere. Coming in at number 8, LiAngelo was considered a basketball prodigy growing up. You can imagine that both LaMelo and Lonzo would be considered that as well, but LiAngelo was the first. Growing up, he found himself competing against 4th and 5th graders while he was still in kindergarten. Not only that, but he was actually performing pretty well against kids that were quite a few years older than him at the time. This was when everybody started to really notice his talent because it's not every day that you see a kindergarten student put up a solid performance against kids who are 11 or 12 years old. Next up at number 7, this fact is the reason he was essentially blackballed from the NBA overall. LiAngelo and a few of his teammates at the time decided to take a trip to China. They were hanging out and having a good time when they decided that it would be a great idea to steal some sunglasses. This was when everything kind of started to go wrong for them. China handles theft a lot differently than the US does, so this wasn't just a slap on the wrist for them. Instead, China was threatening possible jail time. Now, if it wasn't for Donald Trump and multiple American diplomats, we wouldn't have seen LiAngelo and his teammates for years. Thankfully, they were returned to the US unharmed, but it tainted them in the eyes of many NBA scouts and execs. When he returned to the country, his college, UCLA, chose to suspend him indefinitely. There was so much going on at that time that he became overwhelmed and frustrated, so he just chose to quit the team entirely. It was at that point where he simply started to look for a professional basketball career because it was later reported that he would have had to sit the entire season had he stayed in school. And a quick reminder before we move on, guys, make sure you stick around until the end of the video to find out where LiAngelo Ball stands with the NBA right now. But first, we'll continue our countdown with number 6. He may have competed in a staged basketball game to improve his draft stock. This could sound absolutely crazy to think about, but there were genuine concerns over this matter right when the NBA draft was rolling around. Shortly after he quit UCLA, he started to play ball in Argentina. His whole goal was to just make it into the NBA like Lonzo and now LaMelo. So LiAngelo and the team caught wind that NBA scouts were going to be showing up to one of their games. That was when he had his best night yet for the organization. Later on, there were some allegations that the game was just staged to make him look good, but there hasn't been any crucial evidence regarding that matter. For now, it seems like we might never know what really happened there, but everybody can still have their own thoughts on it. Now we're on to number 5. Did you know that LiAngelo Ball owns and operates a clothing brand? When he was still attending high school, he and his 2 brothers came up with an idea to develop a new clothing line. The whole goal was to market that clothing line based off their NBA success, which isn't that bad of an idea considering their talent and popularity. And they still have hopes of achieving their goals of landing a major sponsorship deal with another clothing brand to potentially take this to a whole nother level. After all, we have seen their success with the Big Baller brand as a company, despite their shoes really not being the greatest. Next up, at number 4, LiAngelo Ball stars on a reality show that watches over him and his family. The show is called Ball in the Family and features LiAngelo, LaMelo, Lonzo, and others. The reason this reality show first came to fruition was because their dad, LeVar Ball, was gaining huge popularity over the Big Baller brand, and LiAngelo happened to be one of the best three-point shooters in his class at the time. That year, he was putting up 30-plus points a game consistently while being awarded with All-American First Team honors in his final school year. Lonzo was also heading into the NBA at around this time, so the new show popped off straight from the start. It was compared to Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but had a clear difference of authenticity. Some believe that Keeping Up with the Kardashians feels fake, but Ball in the Family definitely shows real and personal sides of each family member. Coming in at number 3, LiAngelo played in the same professional league as LaMelo did. He spent time in 2017 preparing for the NBA draft in the Lithuanian Basketball League once he quit UCLA. Their move was heavily scouted out by social media as everybody wanted to know how the 2 brothers were doing over there. LiAngelo didn't score a point in his professional debut, but a month later dropped a season-high 28 points. That professional work did allow him to get his name into the draft, but unfortunately he wasn't selected. LiAngelo ended up leaving the league at the end of April alongside the rest of his family. After all, LeVar was very critical of his son's head coaches and didn't feel like they were using him to the best of their abilities. LiAngelo ended up averaging 12.6 points and 2.7 rebounds per game while shooting 41.5% from beyond the arc. Now we're on to number 2. LiAngelo took his talents to the Los Angeles Ballers shortly after he returned to the United States. The Los Angeles Ballers are a team in the Junior Basketball Association, a certain league that was founded by LeVar in order to become an alternative route to the NBA instead of having to go to college. He joined the team right in the middle of the season but fit in right away, and he dropped 53 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in his debut with the team and was later named to the JBA All-Star Game. In that All-Star Game, he scored 39 points and was awarded with the Co-MVP award. The rest of the season, he posted similar stat lines. For example, he dropped 58 points in his opening playoff game and another 58 points in the finals against the Seattle Ballers. Los Angeles won that game, and LiAngelo was given the finals MVP. In case he wasn't receiving enough attention or awards in this league, he was named to the JBA USA team that ended up traveling to face European teams in a type of international tour. Some think that the league was simply fixed so that LiAngelo and LaMelo Ball could look good in front of NBA scouts, but you can't take anything away from some of their scoring performances in those games. Albeit, the talent in the league was pretty below average. Finally, guys, we've made it to number 1. LiAngelo has actually spent time in the NBA, though not that long. He started to inch his way closer to the league in 2019 when he came to an agreement with the Oklahoma City Blue, a G League team. They picked him up by waiver claim and played one game with him on the roster before the rest of their season was canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In that game, Ball didn't see the floor once. His contract ended that year and he started to look for NBA work elsewhere once again. This time he was signed to a training camp contract with the Detroit Pistons. He spent about a week and a half in camp and practiced with them before being released ahead of their first preseason game. He then went months without any other offers or contracts in the league, and a lot of people thought he wasn't going to get anything else. However, LaMelo Ball got drafted to the Charlotte Hornets, and LaMelo ended up being so good in his first year that people considered him a franchise cornerstone type of player. This allowed him to get a little pull in the organization, and it's why LiAngelo was invited to a workout with the group. LaMelo picked him to join him as his workout partner, and the staff was actually incredibly impressed with what they saw out of LiAngelo. Eventually, they chose to pick him up and add him onto their summer league squad. Of course, LiAngelo was an instant hit there. The entire team loved him, and he was making big plays on both ends of the floor in limited minutes. He has yet to be officially signed to the roster, but he definitely made enough of an impact to try and get himself an NBA spot. Hopefully he's able to achieve that sooner rather than later so we can see all three Ball brothers hooping it up in the NBA. Make sure to check out why everyone is obsessed with these Kyrie Irving fights up next.